Imagine work where it is so fun, you are all in. You totally get it when people say, work doesn't even feel like work, and you don't roll your eyes. I have had a love affair with work my whole life. I grew up in Minnesota, worked through college, and went to New York City, where I learned to walk fast and talk fast and work all the time. Then I moved to San Francisco in 1999. There were a few exciting things happening out here, and then it all kind of went down in what we know as the dot-com crash. Then working was just about survival. We were so lucky just to have a job. But an interesting shift started to happen where working all the time became a silent status symbol of just how important we were. And I was feeling rather important because I was working all the time. A few years later, my sister called and said, it's Mom's 60th birthday, I should fly out to Minnesota, my brother should fly out from Ohio, and we would surprise her. But there's this problem. I work a lot. I had business flights scheduled at exactly the same time. I had really super important presentations to give. I don't know what they're about, but they were really, really important. There was just no way this was going to happen. But my sister and my brother do what siblings do best. They tell me what to do because I'm the baby. So first, my sister started listing off all of the reasons that she's been right in her life when she gives me advice. And then my brother, who survived leukemia when he was 18, he was the only survivor in his cancer ward, pulled out the Carpe Diem card, which was his new motto. And when you pull out that card, you get on a plane. So I went. And of course, they were right, as siblings enjoy being. My father took this picture, and I'm 6 months pregnant, so I'm pretty sure that's sparkling apple juice, but I don't totally remember. 2 months later, and 8 months pregnant, my dad called. My big brother, Will, had been killed in a plane accident. He was only 37, so this was the last picture I have. I flew to Ohio the next day, and the plane was still too hot to get near. My family walked through a haze, but one clear idea emerged from my mom. She said, I can tell you're wrestling with having a new baby, work that you do really enjoy, and a new reality without my brother. She said to rethink work, not to stop working, but rather, how could I do my best work on terms that work for my full life without regrets? But with my model of work, and this is not just a Silicon Valley challenge, this is an American cultural mindset. I had no idea how I could be the all-in, dedicated, running a team professional and a parent. And when I looked around me, I didn't see many women in leadership at companies, and I literally couldn't find any, but now I know some, who were moms and felt that if a plane crashed in their world, they could breathe, knowing they had blended work and family in whatever way was right for them. So I dug into the data, and I did, it seems, what anyone in Silicon Valley does when they see data in a huge unaddressed market. I started a company. The first company I co-founded was called Flexperience, and it was targeting those managers, vice presidents, all-in professionals, but who wanted something in between that Pac-Man career and no career. We found flexible projects for experienced professionals, which basically means we're recruiters. But rather than filling traditional jobs, we would find them projects that could be 3 months to 9 months, part-time or full-time. This way they had a lot more control over both their work and their life. And during this time, I went into both the market research as an entrepreneur and also the science behind work. And I learned it wasn't just working moms like me, which I had been for a nanosecond, who wanted a solution. It was baby boomers who had such deep insights and weren't ready to retire. They just didn't want to work all the time. It was dads who were so progressive and pushing the envelope that this is not just a mom issue. And it was millennials filling this room who are pushing this forward. This was a human-centered, multi-generational, pervasive problem. As I looked deeper into the science of work, I spent quite a bit of time at Stanford. The old model that Stanford Longevity shares here is all education up front, work like a dog, someday you might retire into a golden retirement. I want you to imagine a new model where you find ways to engage in a full and inspiring life. Imagine when learning is always an explicit part of your life. You remain adaptable and inspired throughout your life. The other key part as we look at a new model is how work could be so engaging and that you don't want to retire. But one key part of this that's generally missing is that part called leisure. Instead of seeing leisure as some sort of distraction from work, we need to look at it as the ongoing fuel that keeps us creative and energized and able to do our best work throughout our lives. Well, there are a few key areas in the science that show us our cultural blind spots to living this great integrated life. The bedrock myth around work is that more work is better. And the other part of social science that I learned is the concept of the ideal worker. This was my cultural mindset that almost stopped me from going to my mom's party and seeing my brother. The ideal worker is defined as someone who's perpetually available, puts work above all else, phone in hand, maybe laptop too. We know these people. We may be these people. Another key insight I gained from Stanford's design school is how creativity flourishes when we have design constraints. So by creating boundaries with how much time we give to work, we can actually improve our creativity in whatever work problems we're solving. Additionally, the neuroscience is clear that our brains go in cognitive decline if we don't take breaks and play, exercise, travel, meditate, be with loved ones. These ways of spending time are not distractions for us being dedicated. They actually support us doing our best work. The other important distinction I learned is about flexibility. At the time when I co-founded Flexperience, I had no idea that flex could be a four-letter bad word to people making hiring decisions. Now, this is not a research word, but the research is clear that flexibility has a stigma that works against that ideal worker norm. People who ask for flexibility are generally viewed as not being dedicated. I mean, they're certainly not all in. And so even though our company was providing a pool of really talented professionals, we would hit this unseen bias. Luckily, failure is part of learning and entrepreneurship. So when we closed Flexperience, I learned from the science, started again, and named my current company after my big brother, Will Forshay. So instead of using the words flexibility, for those of you who might be interested, I learned from the science, and now we use the words control and autonomy. These are the words that unlock both the individual, who wants some modicum of control over how, where, and when they do their work, and hiring managers, who are wary of exceptions for flexibility, but they do like autonomy because that shows trust in their employees. The other key component in making your future of work have a more fully integrated life is understanding the science of a team. Because you can be totally enlightened as an individual, which I'm sure you all are, but still stuck on a team that we might just say is historic. We are a social species. We are tribal, and science shows us a little irrational. So we have to use our intellectual side to pay attention to what teams you join, what company cultures we build, because this has a huge influence on us. So look for the startups today, or even the legends like Patagonia, who had it right from the very beginning, who recognize the science and are architecting companies with a healthy work culture. But if you are stuck at a company where face time and hours worked are some benchmark for performance, consider learning from small team experiments, like the ones done by Leslie Perlow at Harvard Business School. She proved that teams can have increased quality in work and increased quality of life when you pay attention to the science and deconstruct the myth that more work is better. So as you're making choices on the future of work, because the future of work starts today, the beginning we often take is to look at what the world will pay for. Those are jobs. Of those jobs, we look at what do we do well. Now let's add in the research about how important passion and purpose are, because I want you to find work delicious. That's the way I like to think of it, so you stay engaged past 65. So look at the work you love to do, and then look at the work that the world needs. Then when you find this career sweet spot, I want you to move from thinking all in to thriving with an integrated life. One way of getting to this career sweet spot is by shedding the what should I say in a job interview and instead actually being transparent. A great thinker on redesigning work is Reid Hoffman, co-founder of LinkedIn and a venture capitalist here in Silicon Valley. He lays it out there that pretending that there's some sort of long-term employment contract for either side is absolutely historical. Culturally, though, it wasn't acceptable to be honest about the idea that you might want to move on, But with transparency, a lot of possibility opens up for both sides to find the win. So I want you to imagine you're interviewing for a professional job, and both you and the hiring manager know exactly what each other's thinking. I know that sounds like an HR nightmare, but it's possible that you could actually say what your interests are that might get you to that career sweet spot. What do you really love to do? What do you really hope to get out of this opportunity? And then with the manager can't really promise much, right? So if the manager could actually say, these are the things I know I need you to do, and then actually I just need you to be adaptable. This transparency is much more likely for you to find your sweet spot and not to just get the job, but get the right job. The last shift in reimagining the future of work and life is how we think about jobs versus projects. In the past, we've generally had a series of jobs, or in my dad's case, a series of jobs, but all in one big company. But work is shifting to much more project-based, independent, freelance work. And the projections are that in just 5 years, 40 to 50% of work will be done this modular way. The variety you experience with project-based work, which is slowly coming up, allows you to contribute and learn with a great mix of companies over the year. And it also allows you to more likely to find that bliss, because sometimes it's hard to get all those 4 circles aligned in that one perfect job. The exciting part of this is that also, unlike jobs, which sometimes have a very long list of to-dos that never get to done, it's possible that with projects that are usually more bound by both value and time, that you can protect that leisure engine that I'm going to call creativity so that you can have a fully integrated life. Most common question I get around this is how to think about money. And I'm sure this really solves it super clearly, right? So financial security and job security are not the same thing. Think about it. If you only had one job and I only had one client, what's the advice you would give to me? You would tell me to get more than one client. It's possible that having multiple jobs and multiple clients, you get there. I have one consultant, actually, I apologize, named Marianne. That's actually her real name. We didn't have to hide it. And she's worked with a variety of companies over the last 11 years, 3 different companies each year. And she said to me that she felt more financially secure in that kind of model than in any traditional job. There are so many reasons to reimagine work. When Social Security legislation was passed, life expectancy was 61, which might make you think that it was for the dead. But there's a really long explanation to why that's not true, and it's super boring. What is important is that today, half of the babies born will live past 100 years old. And the good news about this longevity is it forces us to rethink our future. How do we live a full integrated life each year we are given? I don't think having it all is a choice. It's how human beings are designed to live. After my brother was killed, I would wake up in the morning and forget temporarily what my new reality was. I would sometimes literally wake up and gasp and remember, we all have our own unique stories. We all have loss. But what is universal is our desire to live a thoughtful and complete life every year we're given. So losing my brother was my catalyst to rethink time. How long do we get, and how intentional are we with how we live it? I want you to imagine a future where the 4 circles interlap for work that matters to you, with ongoing learning that keeps you inspired and adaptable throughout your life, with energy from deep and meaningful connections, with family and friends your whole life. So consider one action you can take now that moves you towards doing your best work on terms that work for your full life. Thank you.